It is all yours. We do have a microphone that is working this time. So after you're done, we'll pass the microphone around for any questions. And as soon as we get that set up, I'll switch that around again.
All right, thank you. Probably what we ought to do sometime is have a program where you interview the person next to you, so you find out about all the interesting things that Rotarians are involved with and have done. And I was talking to Matt Turner, which you folks know him. He's a member of our club. He was here before he was a member of our club. He's a captain with the sheriff's department. Interesting to me, he's in charge of the jail, the Weld County Jail. They have 530 inmates at this time. They can handle up to 1,350. And he also oversees a staff of 300 people. So 300 people keeping track of 530 inmates. And I'll tell you what, my wife was a social worker. That's a big job. And these aren't all good people down there that are trying to do their best. So anyway, Matt, you've got your hands full. He's married, 2 children. He talked to us a year ago in regard to the fentanyl crisis, and it's an eye-opener. It's a shocker. And you know, it's one of those things you think, oh, it would never affect me and this and that. But you know what? All of us know people that smoke a little weed, do a little something. And one of the articles I was reading talked about, well, your guy that's selling you weed is probably also handling fentanyl. And if he's doing that with your weed, it can be fatal. I mean, these things go on and you hear these terrible stories from parents and whatnot. But I'm going to stop because Matt knows a lot more about it than I do. But Matt, thank you for coming and talking to us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
There we go.
There we go. We want that one.
Get this set up, guys. So I set a timer for 30 minutes. And that's what time I would like to have you guys back to where you need to be today. When I practiced this last night, it only took 3 hours, so I'm not sure how to do it. So I'd like to point out a bit of pride today. I got rid of my red badge, and this is my first time not wearing a red badge. Lori, you mentioned heckling. My red badge says nerd on it. So that guy. Thank you, Carl. But I tell you what, I kept it on there today because you guys are going to see a bit of my nerd come out today. This is a topic, law enforcement in general, public safety in general is a topic that I take very seriously. I study it. I may have been up till midnight last night reviewing this. I woke up at 4:30 to go to the gym. This stuff keeps me up. And I think, as I discussed last week, right, all the coffee beans in this room, I think it keeps you guys up too. So as I was designing this, I realized it sounded like I was complaining a lot. And I didn't want it to be about that. I wanted to discuss why this is important to discuss on this platform and what you should all be thinking about moving forward. So to lighten it up a little bit and also discuss why this is important, I'm actually going to introduce myself a little differently. I wear this a lot. This is what you guys see me in. There may have been some of you who have seen me on the street and you wouldn't know because I'm wearing shorts, a t-shirt, and a backward baseball cap. So I am a person outside of my job, as many of, well, all of the people that I supervise are. We are members of the community, and just like you, we have everything going on outside of work, and the stress of our work, just like yours, compounds everything else. So I can't start without introducing this young lady. Joy and I met when we were 14, and we're about to celebrate 17 years together. I'm going to speed through this. These two.
Don't lose this.
Adeline on the left there. She is my outdoor buddy, which I have a son. But Uriah there, I don't know what he's supposed to be, but I want to be one. So, but they are everything to me. Outside of my human family, we have 2 dogs. Mojo on the left there is a 6-year-old pit bull. with an anxiety disorder. He eats my doors. But I love him to death. And then Gia on the right, she's a year old. She's an Italian Mastiff. And she is a handful. When I'm not at work, when I'm not with my family, I love to be outside doing anything. The outdoors, anything out there is my hobby. So if I'm not stuck inside during cold weather, I hate cold weather, I'm outside doing something. When I was a kid, I wanted to be in the FBI, right? And you're probably thinking, what a noble thing. It wasn't anything noble. I wanted to be these guys. Right? That's what I thought the FBI was. I started going through school. I was studying accounting because, believe it or not, that's how you get into this. Not the X-Files, but actual FBI work, which is not as exciting. Found myself struggling financially and motivationally, and I dropped out of school and I ended up here. So I spent some time in the U.S. Army, some time in the National Guard here in Colorado. Between the two, there was 7 years total. And I learned a ton of valuable lessons. And a lot of those have transmitted to what I'm doing today. In Iraq specifically, and you can't tell that's me, sorry, but this is back in the day of like handheld digital cameras that were terrible. The first part of my deployment, we spent capturing high value targets, disrupting terrorist cells, and really doing some cool stuff that I thought at the time. The second part, we spent with the population, trying to empower and enable them to take security seriously in their own little villages, in their own little areas. This is 2007. And even back then, we were trying to say, hey, we would like to leave this country one day. We need you to take ownership of it. Iraq taught me so many things. And I found that it made me be better in every job that I've done with the sheriff's office. The small stuff that I've done on patrol, it helped me tactically there, but it also helped me as I work with the community, as I work with my staff, work with different people to accomplish one mission. Iraq was not without its bumps and bruises. I look like Wile E. Coyote because we hit a road bomb. And luckily I didn't die in that, though I came very close, excuse me. That earned me a picture with these guys. I was awarded the Purple Heart. And it's not an award that anyone likes winning, right? But it's something that I do hold in high esteem. Later, I'd stand with a different group. In 2012, I joined the sheriff's office, and I joined on a whim. I didn't know what to do. I was trying to start a career and provide for my family. And I had just gone through a police academy, and this is where I landed 11 years ago, still there. It's a great place. I've had a ton of opportunity. Some of those really good, right? I was a public information officer for a few years, and I've kind of maintained that throughout my time. But getting to interact with the community, getting to talk about heavy topics, but also be able to portray who the sheriff's office is as a big picture item. Hey, Stuart, you got that mic? Where you at, Stuart? Can you just hold it up to the back of the screen here? Along with all the good stuff, there was some weird stuff that I've done at the sheriff's office. And I thought I'd let you guys participate in some of that today.
We're not turning on.
Oh,
I know, it's not turning green.
looks like we have more mic issues. Well, it's okay. You might be able to hear this from where you're sitting. Yeah, and you don't have to think about it. It is one of those things.
Ray, what a jerk.
One of my favorite things, so I talked at the beginning about when I was a kid, I wanted to be in the FBI. Well, just in 2021, I got to go to the FBI National Academy. I got to shake the director's hand as he handed me a piece of paper. But on the right side, you can't really see because of Zoom, but I'm standing next to that sign that I really very much wanted to see when I was a kid. So for my time in the military, my time today, what does all that mean? What am I using all that for? And I think it helped me develop a sense of what I want to be a part of. I believe that people should be safe, right? Maslow says that's one of our very basic needs, is to feel safe. Because if you're not feeling safe, you're feeling every other emotion, and then you can't concentrate on what's in front of you. On that note, I believe in public safety. I think it is attainable. I think it is achievable. But it's only achievable if we work together. Public safety is not something that one person can accomplish. Public safety is a community task. If everybody is not invested, if everybody's not contributing, if different groups are not working together, we're not going to be safe. And I think some of our current condition shows that. So what we're doing today is very important. Sharing information, sharing perspective, right? You're going to get some of my perspective today, and that is filtered, I admit that. But I'm also going to present you with some fact and then some reality, some stuff that is hitting Weld County right now. And you get to take all of that and decide what you do with it next. And we'll talk a little bit about that at the end. As a disclaimer, we're going to talk about some weird stuff and some hard stuff. I don't mean to offend anybody. I think if anyone knows me here, it's not my goal. But this is a hard topic to talk about without talking about some things that are gross, without talking about some things that are hard and some things that can really get people going emotionally. I'm not going to talk about everything that I talked about a year ago, otherwise we would just do that presentation again. But what is fentanyl? Fentanyl is a synthetic opioid, and I really struggle with that word, so if I screw it up, I'm sorry. But it is different from any other really high extreme drug out there. So let's take heroin, for example. Heroin, when it enters your body, it grabs onto the mucous membrane. That's what it enters through. Because of that, it enters your body slowly, it stays longer, and it leaves slowly. Fentanyl is different. It grabs onto the water membranes of your body. It enters your brain like Mike Tyson punching you in the face, and then it leaves quicker than you hit the mat. It is so intense and so high, and the crash is so extreme that it kills people. It kills people at an astounding and an unpredictable rate. If you look at that chart there, 2,000 micrograms is considered death. 2,000 micrograms, remember that. Because a grain of sand of fentanyl is the equivalent of 64,000 micrograms. That's 30 lethal doses. Now I put here 4 grams equals 4 million micrograms. The question is, why is that important? Because right now, there are people walking around with 4 grams of fentanyl in their pocket because it's only a misdemeanor. And the criminal mind does not see a misdemeanor as a crime. They do not. That's that drug dealer walking around knowing that he's just going to get slapped on the wrist for 4 grams. And he's got 4 million micrograms in his pocket. It's 2,000 lethal doses. Right there. And I think you said it extremely well. It's not just about fentanyl. If a person goes to buy fentanyl, they really have an addiction issue. But that person who's looking for something recreational, right? Your weed, right? Stuff like that. Other drugs, cocaine. This stuff is so easily transferable that it cannot be tracked. And that's the random part. You never know what you're getting. Anymore you go to a drug dealer, if they deal fentanyl at all, you don't know what you're getting. You're probably getting fentanyl. So last year we talked, same time period, right? So I talked in April of last year, and by that point, from April of 20, to April of 21, so I talked back in 21, 100,000 people died of overdoses. 100,000. Another year, right? January of 21 to January of 22, you're looking at 107,000. And I think the layperson says, just 7,000 out of 100, it's not that bad. It's bad. That's 100,700 people that died from overdose. Those overdose deaths, 75% just involved one opioid, one drug. 66.5 involved synthetic drugs. So that tells you if 70% are one drug and 66.5 are synthetics, that means that most of the one drug deaths are from a synthetic opioid of some kind, mostly fentanyl. So Susan, last week, when you reminded people we were talking about, you get people with their mouth full all the time, I'm doing it to you. So you said, hey, Matt Turner's gonna talk to us about the fentanyl crisis, right? The fentanyl war. And it's funny, when you ask yourself, what kind of war are we fighting? We're not fighting the fentanyl war. That's not what our leadership is fighting at all. They're not focused on it. How many of you guys have heard the term war on drugs? Right, a term that's been around for a very long time. I didn't know this until doing a little research the other day, but that's a highly argued term, argued idea, right? Late with politics perspective. And if you look at the ACLU here, they believe that it's a war on families and women. I'm not sure how they get there, but that's where they got it. We're not fighting a war on drugs anymore. We're not. CDC says this is an overdose crisis. I'm sorry, got cut off there, but this is an overdose crisis. They are focused on overdose. And that is a problem, right? I don't know how many people here are from the medical field, right? But if you focus on constant end to end, and you don't focus on the symptom, the person will never get the help they need. So let's talk about that for a minute. There we go. I want you to imagine, right? There's a person with sinus congestion, very simple thing, sinus congestion. And they go to their doctor, right? They're feeling that pain here, maybe headache, their eyes hurt, they can't breathe through their nose, right? Maybe their ears hurt. Those are symptoms, right? So imagine that you went to your doctor, you said, I have sinus congestion. And the doctor said, cool, we're gonna give you a virus. We're gonna give you a virus to keep you sick. Because what we don't want is for all that mucus to start breaking up. So if that happens, you know, snot coming out of your face nonstop. It could go down into your lungs. You could get pneumonia, right? You could get more sick. You could die if that mucus starts breaking up. So we're gonna give you this drug. It's gonna keep you sick. And we're gonna send you home with a box of Kleenex just in case you get a runny nose. You guys gonna go back to that doctor? I'm not. And I really stay away from doctors. That one sounds terrible. But the problem is that's exactly what we're doing. There's a program out there called MAT Services. And by the way, I'm not saying that MAT Services is a bad program. I'm not saying that at all. You take it in the context of a jail and it gets really hard to argue how successful it can be. And I think more importantly, we're missing a key factor there. And it's nobody's fault. It's nobody's fault. We're just missing a key factor. But I want you to take my jail, for example. Here very soon, July 1, we have to start doing a program called MAT Services, where when a person gets booked in, if they tell us that they are an addict, they are dependent on opioids, they can opt into a program to receive a synthetic opioid, something like Suboxone. That Suboxone will keep them from crashing. It'll keep that runny nose away while they're in jail. What's coupled with that is behavioral health services. The idea is, and I think there's validity to this idea, that if the mind is quiet, if you're not crashing, if the mind is quiet, that therapist can come in and talk to you and try to explain why your addiction is a problem, how to help you out of that addiction and all those things. The only problem is the average length of stay for someone in jail is 22 days. And 22 days is not enough time to do any type of psychotherapy that is meaningful. My hope is that the continuity of care between the outside jail and then linking them up with services on the outside is effective. And I'm curious to see how effective that is once this law goes into place. But at the end of the day, when a person is released after their 22 days, I'm going to send them home with Kleenex that looks like that. That is Narcan. The problem is a person gets out of jail. And last year we watched a video of a young lady who was living on the street. She was addicted to fentanyl and she was taking 5 N30 pills a day. She started by taking half of one. And now she's taking 5 a day just to get the intense high that her body needs in order not to crash. This is meant for her, right? She goes to jail. She doesn't get that 5 pills a day. When she gets out, she's going to do 5 pills because that's where she was at when she left. And when she does those 5 pills, she's going to overdose. And if someone's not around to administer Narcan to her, she will probably die. That is where our war is focused. But what if we had this? What if we had Mucinex? What if we had a medicine that we could give somebody to interact with that symptom? And I tell you, the Mucinex in this system is behavioral health. I really firmly believe that. The problem is anybody in here in the behavioral health field? I think I asked this once, right? Ted, it's scary because we are so short on people in this field right now. And I think there's lots of reasons for that. One of those is there have been 2 laws that have been put into place. One of those directly associated to jails that limited the type of certifications a person needs in order to practice psychotherapy within a jail setting. And in order to get those certifications, you also have to have a master's degree and all this list of other stuff. It takes so long to get there. By the time a person gets all that debt from school, they're not looking to work in a jail, right? They're looking at private practice. They're looking at flexible schedule. They're looking at whatever they can do to work their life in a way that helps pay back that debt and make all that time they invested something that'll profit them, that'll help them. Even though those people are so focused on helping others, they're just driven to that. I am short 50% of my counselors in the jail right now, and I don't have that many. It's scary, but check this out. Your state hospital down in Pueblo recently reported to us that on their nursing staff alone, they're suffering a 40% loss right now. They are 40% short on their staffing matrix, and that's just nurses. That's just medical personnel, the personnel who administer the medication to get a person compliant with the court process. I don't know. They didn't report on their counseling staff. I don't know where that's at, but I do think it's probably really bad because they also reported that as of that point, about 2 weeks ago, there are 460 people currently awaiting the medicine and psychotherapy needed to become competent for trial. They've already been assessed. They've already been deemed incompetent for trial. 460 people waiting for the medical and mental health needs, medical and mental health care they need to get better, to get stable, so they can go through the court process. That doesn't include what I'm going to say is the thousands of people who are waiting at jails right now. I know at my jail alone, there's probably about 37 to 40 who are waiting to be deemed whether they are competent or incompetent for court. That's just my jail alone. It's scary. This is what we're missing. I firmly believe this. I am not a smart man, but I believe this is the missing piece. So that is my perspective, okay? I'm gonna set that hat down. I'm gonna pick up the fact section of this. Last year, I told you about House Bill 19-1263. This happened back in 2019. And it did what I call decriminalize a bunch of drugs to include fentanyl. This is the bill that made it so that a criminal can have 4 grams of fentanyl in their pocket. There's a few laws coming up this year, or a few bills, I should say, proposed bills. They're not going to make it any better. Senate Bill 23-109. This one targets people who are suppliers. They target suppliers. So if a person is supplying drugs that then cause a person to overdose, they're held to a higher standard. That's a good thing, right? Except this one, reporting of emergency overdose events, says that if a person calls in to report an overdose, they are not held criminally liable in any way, which means that dealer can have the person do drugs in front of them. That person overdoses, they call, say, hey, I got an overdose. And they're not held criminally liable for poisoning that person. That is scary to me. You got a bill, and by the way, this bill is not 100% good. I got to say that, okay? But you got a bill that tries to hold people a little bit accountable, and then a bill that gives them a loophole. So that's a 0. We're not doing anything. This one scares me even more. House Bill 23-1258. This one's going to look at the cost of what it takes to interact with drug crime in Colorado. And you can't see it. It's cut off at the bottom here. But the finality of this bill hopes to prove that we are spending too much money interacting with drugs. And I know exactly what they intend to use that for. Weld County has a drug task force. I don't know if it survives. I really don't. And that scares me because they've done amazing things. They've interacted with some huge problems, but I don't know if it survives. This is about the only bill slated for this year, House Bill 23-1164, that really hopes to get in front of anything. And it's looking more at, again, how much a person can carry on them and be held liable for it. As you can tell, there's one representative on this, and our sources tell us it's not going to catch any traction whatsoever. So right now, we can't even get right on the floor. So all that is scary. The first one I talked about, Senate Bill 23-109, there is some realization, right, that decriminalizing drugs in 2019 had a very negative impact. So they start talking about certain drugs that you're only going to be able to carry 2 grams of, right? Fentanyl, this one says that you can only carry 1 gram. But again, 1 gram of fentanyl can kill so many people. So I feel, my boss feels, that the entire system is being handcuffed. It really is. The criminal justice system is being handcuffed. And I don't like thinking about us as law enforcement, as the cops as law enforcement, because we're just the tip, right? We're the tip of that spear. The law enforcement system, criminal justice system, is much bigger than us. Judges' hands are tied, the DA's hands are tied, our hands are tied, everybody's being handcuffed. So I want to show you a few pictures. So how many guys think that drugs get into my jail? Lots of it. I hate it, okay? And it seems like, just like when I was interacting with terrorists overseas, that the second that I come up with a security measure, they find a way around it. I deployed 2 canines. The amount of money behind that is fallacious. Do you know that canines cannot smell fentanyl? And if they do, what happens? They die. Yeah. I have a body scanner, right? It's basically an X-ray machine, better than the ones you see at the airport, right? Doesn't catch everything. And they know ways to hide stuff in their bodies in a way that won't show up on that machine. And then the mail. Inmates have a legal right to legal documents while they're in jail. And it has to be done quickly. So right now, when you get legal mail in the jail, my deputies will open it in front of the inmate. They shake it out. They are not allowed to read one word. If they read the word "the" on it, they are in trouble. So they shake it out, try to go through it really quick, then they hand it to the inmate. What if I told you that a municipality pretty close to us, not going to say who, I should say a county close to us, recently had a huge sting in their jail where they found that legal documents were being forged, much like the one you see on the picture here, by people on the outside to look like legal mail. But there were pages inside that mail that were printed with ink laced with ketamine. And the person just has to chew the paper. Even if my deputies read every single word, if they had that ability, would they catch that? No. This one, this is what we call stupid. This person mailed this stuff in. It looked like parole paperwork, even though the inmate was not ever on parole, nor probably will he ever be on parole. And inside there is Suboxone strips. There were, if you see the blue package on the right, that's your M30 fentanyl pills. I want to say the package on the left there is either meth or cocaine. But these are just put inside an envelope, and they hope that we won't check it. So believe it or not, this inmate probably would have gotten these. It's not as easy as just fold it up. They were taped to the pages, as you can see, even on the one with Suboxone. They were taped there. My deputies ripped them off to take pictures of how much. But there's a good chance this could have gotten through. And believe it or not, we found out about this from another inmate who said, hey, this guy's getting drugs and you're going to want to check his stuff. There are people in jail who are scared. That scares me. This one just happened last week. A young lady was booked in who was hiding a large amount of drugs inside her. And I said, we talked about gross things. I'll let you figure out what that means. Again, there you have your blue M30 pills, and the package on the left is black tar heroin. She had so much inside her that she didn't know if she had more. And this involved, when she got booked in, they found it surprisingly on the body scanner. She went to the hospital for a cavity search that she volunteered to do, I think because she was scared. They found, I think it was 3 or 4 packages at the hospital. When she came back in and was getting patted down, they found another one. They found the heroin. And then while she was getting a strip search, which we do for anyone who comes in with drugs, another package fell out, which was the blue pills here. And I tell you, folks, I feel sorry for her. I don't know who was using her that way. I really don't. This is Ranger. Ranger was one of my jail canines up until about a month ago. And this is Dexter. Sorry, you can't see him. Behind there is Deputy Chambers, and that's Deputy Doherty. The sheriff decided, you know what, these guys can't detect the drugs that are coming to the jail. They can't detect Suboxone. They can't detect fentanyl. So we're gonna move them back into the streets. I don't have any canines in the jail. These guys are on call for me. So that's a security measure that I lost because it was ineffective now. The picture you're seeing here, the day that Doherty and Dexter showed up on shift on patrol, they found 56 grams of crystal meth on a random traffic stop. So that's the immediate effect of what the sheriff was trying to do there. While we're having the drug issue in the jail, the drugs are on the street right now. And I showed this picture last time, and actually last year, Deputy Fortin got the Sam Brownlee Award for his efforts here. But ladies and gentlemen, that is drugs that was found here in Weld County, directly connected. Directly connected with the cartel. And that's in Weld County right now. So I told you we were going to get back to this, get back to what's important here and why this presentation is important. I hope I didn't sound like I was complaining too much. But all of you are stakeholders in the community. And I will tell you that our folks down at the state capitol, they're done listening to me, they're done listening to the sheriff. I'm not asking anyone to do anything political in this, and I think it's healthy for everyone to realize that those bills that are being passed, you don't get to vote on them. It's not political. It's just the word that's being spread down there is what you want to happen. And I don't think it's true. So I think the sheriff is very well recognized that when he goes down to the Capitol, they don't listen to him. I will go down there. And if any of you want me to pass on your perspective, if any of you want me to pass on your opinion on these matters, ways to make the bills better, ways why the bills can't work at all, whatever that is, I'm here for you. And I'll go have those conversations. If you want to come with me, you're more than welcome. But what's happening down in Denver, they need to hear from us, the community. Because it's not one person, it's a community event. So on that note, happy, cheery note, right? I'd like to take some questions. And I tried to honor your time as best I could. It's currently 1:14, but I'll let Susan drive how many questions we take. And I'll stick around for a while after.
Take some questions, and if they've got to leave, then we'll be here to answer.
Yeah.
The one that, the bill that the drug dealers report, is that just at that time that they can't get arrested or is it like all time?
That's, so to clarify, make sure you're asking that if someone calls in to report an overdose issue, right, how long are they immune from being held responsible? It would be limited to that event. So it's talking about when people show up on scene, right? There's that person who is overdosed, someone calls the cops. And really, I think it's geared more toward the buddy that's doing drugs with them. And the one that says, hey, we were just smoking pot. We didn't know it was going to happen, right? We're not going to hold people, I mean, pot's fine in Colorado, but we're not going to hold people accountable, right, when they're doing cocaine and they overdose because they called and reported that. So I think that if a person were to call in and say, hey, my buddy overdosed last week, they don't fit that bill. So they would be held accountable just like anyone else. So I think it's limited to that moment.
Do you have any count on how many drug-related deaths there were in Weld County last year?
I don't. And actually, statistical data on drug overdose, believe it or not, is very hard to find. The reporting systems on that are very difficult. You know, I could dive into the coroner's stuff. You know what? That's a great question. And let me research and I'll get back to you. I don't have any data on that.
Sir, what's your opinion about what the cause is behind the cause that people even want to take something that can kill them like that?
That's a dangerous question. What is my opinion?
That's why I asked it that way. I really want to.
Yeah, and you know, I'll be blunt. I think it goes back to 2013 and our state's legalization of marijuana. I think that marijuana is a gateway drug, right? And I don't think marijuana is a huge problem, but it is a gateway drug. Because the second that a person gets that sensation, they get that dopamine dump, right? And they feel that thing, and they're like, what else gets me that, right? And I mean, it's the difference between buying a 4.3% alcohol compared to that new Belgian Ranger that's 9.5, right? It's the same thing. So I really see that as a point where we really started questioning what we would allow. I mean, now you can have mushrooms. So now psychedelics are authorized as well. That's weird to me as well. I would go back that far. And I think that many people would use prescriptions from doctors as an excuse as well. I don't think I fit that one in there. And I'll speak to both my wife and my father-in-law. My father-in-law 2 years ago and my wife currently have been battling colon cancer. And along the way, you're given medication to help with pain, right? It scares me that my own wife will take a pill, come out and give me the bottle and say, these make me feel good, would you keep these with me? Because she's worried, right? She's worried about what happens when I like that too much and then I don't want to stop. But I think it goes back to that overall problem. There is a lack of mental health care in society today. That is really the pain point, right? What if that person could meet with somebody and say, man, I like this. What do I do to get away from it? And this person giving some coping mechanisms there to help them find another drive. I have some friends right now, my squad leader from the military who's over in Iraq with me. He and his wife were in Nepal not too long ago, and I can't remember where they said they were at the other day. They're outdoor enthusiasts. And I always tell Sam and Nix, please don't do drugs because they have that type of personality. They are addicted to outdoors. Like they in the last year, they did the Continental Divide Trail, they biked across America, and now they're doing the next thing. They just got that personality, you know, but they found that thing. They found that hook for them. And I think if some people could just know what that hook for them is to get them off of that thing, it would help them dramatically. It really would. I think while we could go back to 2013, the real issue is there's there's a lack of mental health care in society today. That's what I feel. That is my perspective. What else? Sir.
So just the average person on the street looking for a high.
Gotcha.
He's fast. You know, you talk about the blue M30 pills, and that's kind of what you think of with fentanyl.
Mhm.
Is the person on the street that wants that, is he looking for fentanyl or is he just wanting an opioid, or in that M30 pill, how many micrograms of fentanyl in it? Does anybody even know?
Right. So I think there's multiple questions in your question. The first is, A, how much is in that M30 pill, right? How much fentanyl is in that M30 pill? And what was the first part? Sorry. We're both gonna have to search here.
Well,
Right, are they looking for fentanyl? Okay, perfect.
Fentanyl or just an opioid, it just.
Let's look for those two. So what if I'm your drug dealer, okay? And you come to me and you say, hey, can I get some meth? And I say, yeah. This is gonna cost you $200. And you're like, dude, $200, like, I won't have anything to eat. You say, okay, cool, for a quarter of the cost, I give you this. It's called fentanyl. Fentanyl is so much cheaper to produce than any other drug out there right now. And because of its potency, you can cut it and make it last longer. Technically, it's smarter financially, right? So that's really what's happening. They're getting hooked on the cost. the cost and the potency. The second question there, how much fentanyl is in a blue M30 pill? Roll the dice. There is no way to tell. There really isn't. They've established no way outside of a clinical setting where they administer it through an IV, right? They've established no way to tell how much is in an M30. And that is the scary part. Because a person might think I took a pill yesterday, one whole pill yesterday, but what if that one was half dose of what they're about to take? That's the scary part. Great question. Did that answer that, by the way? One last question.
Are those M30s being made commercially or are they being made by whoever out there?
That's, the M30s popped up in the private market, black market, so to speak. So yeah, they're not being produced commercially. All kinds of conspiracy theories about they come from China or Mexico or whatever, but they are not, it's not something that you would go buy for any legitimate means in a pharmacy. One more, I guess.
Now, yeah, how long does the high last? I mean, what are we talking here when you said it's very fast?
I mean, it depends. Minutes if it doesn't kill you, right? Longer if you cut it with something else, right? You cut it.
Literally minutes, they're
Yeah.
doing this for minutes.
Yep, there's a young man who came into the lobby, the jail last year to book himself in. He had a warrant, so he knew he had to book himself in. The judge said, go to jail for 30 days. He doped up before he came. He actually came in, we think he did it in our bathroom. So I don't know how much he took, but he took it there. My deputies and my nurses gave him 5 shots of Narcan, and he still left on an ambulance. He lived, right? 5 shots of Narcan. So it's just incredible what this is doing to our world, our county, our city, whatever you want to tag on there. But these could be anybody we know, right? These people, they're people. The people that I have in custody are not convicts. They're not bad people. They are people going through their own individual life circumstances. And like I said, there are people in jail who are scared right now. And that still frees me. I talked long enough. I'll stick around if you got any questions.
Our Zoomers. Thank you very, very much for your program again. And as a thank you, this stuffed animal is going to go to a woman's place. And the tag on here says, this stuffed animal wants to help you when things are hard, snuggle with it, and you'll feel a little love and caring. This comfort animal is given to you by Greeley Centennial Rotary in honor of Matt Turner, who is our presenter with today's date. And on the back is our 4-way test. So thank you very, very much for that.